What's up, everyone? So I almost didn't make this video because I felt like all of this finally clicked into gear last night, and I like to wait a little bit longer before I teach on something, but I was honestly so excited to talk about it that we're gonna dive into it. So the question I have for you is, what is the way in which you are living your life? And I want to slow down, and I want you to feel the weight and the magnitude of this question. Because whether you know it or not, there's a way, the way in which you are choosing to live your life. There are so many different influences influencing you. Social media, family members, friends, all of these influences, and they're all pulling and tugging at you and revealing a way in which you should live your life. And I think that we need to learn to slow down and ask ourselves, what is the way in which I'm living my life? Who am I following? Who is influencing me? And I want to jump to the scripture, John 14, verse 6, when Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So I want to flip my board over because I have an awful drawing. But I hope it gives a mental picture of what I'm talking about. So there are all these different ways in which we could be living our life. There's religion, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, New Age, Christianity. There's secular ways, the pursuit of wealth and status and pleasure and fame. I want to suggest that maybe, just maybe, that we should narrow our sights on one and one way only, and it's the Jesus way. And what I wanted to show by revealing this is a tree, it's an awful tree, but it's also a highway. And this is the road in which Jesus wants us to travel on. And as you can see, it leads to fruit and growth and life. But there's all these different offshoots that are pulling at you. And I actually am suggesting that it's Buddhism, it's Judaism, it's wealth, it's status, all of these different ways. And the reason why, and I'll flip my board back over now that hopefully you have that mental picture, that Jesus wants us to realize that he is the way, the only way, it goes on to say, to the Father and to truth and to life, is this I am statement. Yesterday, I showed you that the scripture, Exodus 3:14, when God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And maybe you have to go listen to yesterday's episode because I actually talked about the factual reasons, the evidence, the manuscripts, the eyewitnesses as to why I believe in the life and the gospel of Jesus. So I'm referring to that when I talk about this I am statement, because if you put yourself back in ancient times, when Judaism was prevalent and he was talking to disciples, he was talking to Pharisees and religious leaders, when he says the statement, I am, jaws would have dropped because everyone around him knew that they were talking about Exodus 3:14, when God said to Moses, I am that I am. Jesus is revealing that one of the ends to that statement that God was making and that Jesus is making as one is that he's the way to life. There are other statements that Jesus makes in the New Testament. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. Every single time he says I am, it's talking about Exodus 3:14. When God said unto Moses, I am that I am. I am Yahweh. I am author, creator. So this is why people hated Jesus, and it's also probably why you hate what I'm talking about, because you are not fond of one way of life. People telling me what to do. I'm cool with the moral side of religion and Christianity, like be a good person, but don't tell me there's heaven and hell, and don't tell me that I'm a bad person, and don't tell me that God, if he was real, that, he would never make up these harsh rules and he wouldn't have all these boundaries and ways of life. But I'm actually suggesting that, yes, he would. And it actually isn't as mean as you're making him out to be, because he made a way through the cross. He isn't asking you to perform or be a good person. He's asking you to humble yourself. He's asking you to acknowledge that you fall short and that you need help in this life. And you don't need help from another person who's only been living for 20, 30, 50, 80, 100 years. You need help from the eternal God, the one who has all knowledge and wisdom. So that's why I chose this quote by N.T. Wright. The way of Jesus is not an escape from the world. It is a way of transforming the world from within. The world within is our heart, and we need help transforming our heart because we're angry, we're bitter, we're in a hurry, we're pushy, we're mean, we're nice to people when we want to be nice to people, and then we're mean when they're mean back to us. We need help. I need help. And I think this is why the question is so important, and the wait, the wrestling to find out if you really believe in Jesus is so important, because if this statement is true, that he is the way to life, it deserves your attention. It deserves some inner reflection on the way in which you are choosing to live your life. He is asking for lordship, for kingship over your life. Not because he is a God that rules with a hammered fist, because he is the suffering servant that died as you and for you, because he loves you. And he knew that you could never get back to the Father because of the fall of humanity without him. So what did he do? Like any good father would do, he went to the cross. He died for you. He made a way where there was no way. So he's not mean. He's not making up rules that are unfair. He is the perfect God. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And he's asking you, will you humble yourself? Will you search out the scriptures? Will you reflect on the way in which you're living your life and put a mirror and see if it's reflecting of the way of Jesus? So this is supposed to challenge you. This is supposed to provoke some thought, some reflecting. And I know it's difficult, but I want you to search out the scriptures. I want you to reach out to me. I also want to make sure that you know the most important part is that it says by grace we have been saved. So just remember that none of this is about performance. It's about love. It's about grace. And it's about humility. So I hope this challenges you, like I said, and God bless.